Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. We are heading into busy season, and why do I say that? Because we have got yet again the summertime. And what does that mean? That means we've got a World Cup, but apart from that, we have got transfer news to bring, and some pretty big ones. I don't really like to talk about transfer rumors unless there is some sort of level of, you know, concrete or legitimacy, um, as to, Real Madrid are actually interested in a player, or, things are moving, and, things are progressing in terms of agreeing with the player or agreeing with the selling club. And usually, when you look at a club of Real Madrid, like, everyone gets linked to Real Madrid. Like, literally everyone. Just this week alone, we have had Enzo Fernandez, who apparently wants to come to Real Madrid. We have had Rodri, who spoke while he is with Spain, and he said about his future, something along the lines of, we will wait until after the World Cup and see. So he's not even closing the door. He's literally opening it. And he's like, I didn't open it, but it's already open. So, let's see if the door is going to open by itself. That's what he's saying. Apparently, Josko Gvardiol is also a player who wants to join Real Madrid. And then Real Madrid apparently, we'll get on to this later on, but Real Madrid apparently won um, a new right back. We've got centre backs being linked and potentially being signed. And I don't expect Real Madrid to go for more than one centre back, but could that be something that happens? Who knows? I think that's a very interesting talking point as well. And of course, a midfielder. That is something that I think Real Madrid will definitely look at. And I think that is something that Real Madrid um, will prioritize as the summer goes. But let's start off with the big bomb of last night and this morning slash afternoon. So this came in from a couple of sources last night, but it was confirmed earlier this afternoon by Fabrizio Romano, who said, breaking, Real Madrid have verbal agreement in place with Ibrahima Konate, 4-year deal to be signed depending on if slash when Florentino Perez is re-elected. Here we go, expected right after soon. Konate put Saudi bids on hold for Real Madrid, as per Marcos Benito reported. So the situation here is obviously with the presidential elections, Real Madrid will have to delay every signing and transfer for at least another week, because it's sorry, I am my throat is kind of dry today. Um, because the elections will be taking place on the 7th of June, which is um this Sunday, I believe. Yeah, it is. So it will be in the on the 7th of June, Sunday, in the afternoon. And if Florentino Perez is elected and he wins, which I think a lot of us are expecting that's the case, but if that's the case, then Mourinho will officially be the manager, and Konate will effectively be the first signing. Now, I think I think that is a very good start to Florentino Perez's bid to win over the fans, and most importantly, the socios, who are the ones that are deciding on the votes. Now, Enrique Riquelme, who is the opponent to Florentino Perez in the presidential election, and I personally don't like him because he has delayed everything now. But anyways, he has already put out statements that he wants to bring in Spanish players, players like Rodri. Apparently, I saw rumors that it was the manager is going to be Arteta, which I don't think it's ever going to be him. I think it's going to be someone else, like a Jurgen Klopp maybe. That's a little bit more realistic to get. But I don't look at the proposal that he's bringing on the table as exciting and as important in terms of who is coming in compared to Florentino Perez. I have seen so many people online say Jose Mourinho is a terrible appointment, etc., etc. Look, if you're gonna base it on how successful he has been over the past 5 to 10 years, then obviously you're gonna look at it from face value and say he hasn't been successful, he's barely won anything, why should we appoint him? But I'll tell you something, Real Madrid do not need a manager right now who has been successful over the past 5 years. Xabi Alonso came in after literally going invincible with Bayer Leverkusen. What happened? Carlo Ancelotti, one of the most decorated managers in football history, failed last season. What happened? And you want to see the common similarities amongst Ancelotti and Xabi Alonso? They were unable to get a hold, to get the grip on the dressing room. No one respected them during their time. During Ancelotti's final season and during Xabi Alonso's first season. The truth is, Real Madrid do not need a manager who knows how to win. And ironically, Jose Mourinho has won many trophies before. So I don't understand why we're acting like he's not successful. But anyways, Real Madrid do not need anyone who is successful in terms of how many trophies the manager have won. You can bring Pep Guardiola in, you can bring Sir Alex Ferguson in, you can bring some of the most successful managers in footballing history, you can bring back Ancelotti. And I'll tell you, not much will change. Maybe with Sir Alex Ferguson in his prime, yes. But I'll tell you this, Jose Mourinho is the one final saving grace for Real Madrid. And you don't know why? Because he is someone with balls, someone who will come in and demand respect from day one. He isn't going to be the nice guy. He isn't going to be the nice friendly manager, friendly coach who walks in and tries to make friends. He's going to come in and do his job, which is to implement discipline and the culture that should be at Real Madrid. And I think Jurgen Klopp is a great coach, a great manager, but I don't think he will be able to do that. I'm sorry. I think Jurgen Klopp literally said he's tired, and he was at Liverpool with people who he has worked with fans that he has worked with, and a city that adored him, that respected him, and he was tired. Imagine him coming into this dressing room. He's going to be tired in 5 minutes. And I don't mean that as an exaggeration. Literally, he's going to be tired after 5 minutes. Whereas Jose Mourinho, I look at him and I think, you know what? I genuinely believe that, yeah, he will keep hold of the dressing room. So immediately that's one up with Jose, right? Then Konate, people have painted Konate as a really terrible player. One bad season and apparently he's trash. So people forgot how good he was at Leipzig, how good he was the season before when Liverpool won the Champions League. Sorry, the Premier League. Like, people forget how good he was at Leipzig and when he won the Premier League. I mean, I watched him last season, like this season that just went by, and there was so many sloppy moments, giving the ball away, clearing the ball to an opponent, poor defending, in no man's land. I've seen it. Yes, I've watched the games. Not as a Liverpool fan, just as a neutral fan. But if you look at this past season and you look at Liverpool, how many of their players have dropped off? Salah went from one of, if not the best player in the world, dropped off. Van Dijk dropped off. McAllister dropped off. I would say only Szoboszlai has actually maintained / actually stepped up. Everyone else has dropped off. So, look, I'm not saying Konate hasn't been bad, but I don't think he has gone from a good defender, a good player, to suddenly trash. I think there is a player in Konate, and I believe that in the right system, under the right guidance, under the right manager, you will see a good player. I don't think he will suddenly become the best centre back in the world. Does he have the potential to be? Yes, but I don't think he will be immediately from day one. But I think what he does bring is a player who is young, he's got the legs, and I don't think he will be a guaranteed starter. I think he will come in and face the same issues that Trent did at some points this season. When you look at Trent, Carvajal was starting, Carvajal was playing. When he was fit, Carvajal did play. And I think Jose Mourinho wants options. I think he wants quality plus quantity. And when he looks at the centre-back spots, he's got Rudiger, who will fight for him, but Rudiger's injury history isn't great. Militao as well. Alaba has gone. Asensio, I don't think is someone who should be first, second, third, maybe even fourth choice. I think maybe fourth choice, but I don't think he should be the first two options. Huijsen has worked with Jose Mourinho before at Roma, so I think that will be one of his main pillars at centre back. Konate coming in will add another player, another option, and then you've got Huijsen, you've got Militao, you've got Rudiger, you've got Konate, and if you do want to get rid of Asensio in any instance, maybe you might want to bring in another centre back, but again, that's not the most important now. I'm happy with the back four, the four options in Huijsen, Konate, Rudiger, Militao. Obviously, I want another option, but I think the options are going to be first choice, and I just don't think we will bring in necessarily two first choice centre backs this window. We might, like I said earlier, we might, and I think if we do, that is a statement of intent. If Real Madrid do bring in two top centre backs, a centre midfield, a right back, and a striker, I think that's a statement of intent. And we could well see another 2009. You know, Florentino Perez has done it before. There are summers where he actually spends and he actually does what is needed in the squad. And I think we could well see that. So, look, I'm really content. I wouldn't say I'm very happy. I wouldn't say I'm over the moon. But I think as one of the 4 or maybe 5 options at centre back, I don't mind it. He has experience. He's young. He isn't someone who's in his 30s. He's got years to bring, and he has got quality. One bad season is not going to change that. I'm sorry, that's my opinion at least. But I think if Real Madrid did have someone like Konate last season, we would have done a lot better for sure. The experience that he would have helped Hoyson and Raul Asensio, and the the quality he would have had, and as well the legs he would have had next to a Rudiger or an Alaba, like he would have done really well in that team. So look, I think he will come in as a rotational centre back, and that sounds crazy, right? I don't mean he'll get benched every game. I'm just saying that he will come in, he'll play a lot of games, but he won't start game in game out. There will be games where he will be benched, but there will be games that he will start. So look, let's see. But exciting times in terms of that. Now, just a little bit more in terms of um this Konate deal, as my Google is loading. So just in, Jose Mourinho has approved Ibrahima Konate's signing. Now this, I think, is the sort of big elephant in the room in terms of when you do make signings and the manager hasn't been officially confirmed yet. You know, is Jose Mourinho happy with this deal? And apparently, according to Martin Moretto, he is, and I'm glad to hear it. So, just in, Jose Mourinho believes that he can bring Ibrahima Konate back to his best with a good pre-season, according to Le Sur. If Jose Mourinho is approving this deal, and touch wood, Jose Mourinho isn't the manager, and Konate does still sign with someone at Jose Mourinho's approval, I think the next guy who comes in will think, you know what? I agree. I do believe that someone like Konate is a great player to bring in on a free. So I think it's a win-win regardless, but I think the fact that Jose Mourinho has said yes, he's happy with this deal, he's happy with Konate, he's happy, and he believes he can get Konate back to his best. I think that is that's a real positive going forward, because ultimately you don't want to be bringing players in for a manager that he doesn't want. So I think importantly, it's a player that Jose is happy with. Now, moving on to another player who has been progressing in terms of his links with Real Madrid. Now, usually, like I said at the start of the video, Real Madrid are linked with so many players. But Denzel Dumfries apparently is someone that has been getting closer and closer and closer to a deal with Real Madrid. Now, I cannot wait until next week and the week after, not only because of the World Cup, but once the elections are done, we can finally see deals being done, deals being signed, deals being announced. And Denzel Dumfries could well be one of those. Now, this came in last night. So it first started off with breaking Real Madrid are now aware of the financial package of Denzel Dumfries' signing. It is one to watch from Fabrizio Romano. And then that escalated to breaking Denzel Dumfries has a release clause worth less than 25 million euros. Now, if Real Madrid fully decide to sign him, there will be no negotiation needed with Inter Milan, because a release clause, the club that the player plays for can't stop any move. So once you pay the release clause, you can straight away negotiate with the player himself and the agent, of course. But that is a big positive news, because I think if he didn't have the release clause, we would spend a lot more time talking to Inter Milan on a fee. And Inter might say, we want 40 million, and Real Madrid will say, we want to pay 25. And then you'll be negotiating over the summer, and then you're just wasting time. But the fact is, it's less than 25 million euros, which I think is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous for a player of his quality to be less than 25 million euros. Like, would I pay 15 million euros for him? Yes, I would. But the fact is, he's probably around 20 million euros, like less than half of what I would actually pay. I think it's an incredible deal if Real Madrid do go through in terms of the price. So we've established what the cost would be for Dumfries. Now let's move on. So, just in, Real Madrid are in contact with Denzel Dumfries' camp. Again, from Fabrizio Romano. So you can see the timeline. 16 hours ago, which was last night basically, Fabrizio Romano said that, yeah, Real Madrid are, well aware of Dumfries and his release clause, but now they are in contact. So this tells me that Real Madrid were already looking at Dumfries. They approached the situation or the deal and they were like, okay, what is the situation we're dealing with? And they figured out that, okay, this is a player who we can get for around 20 million euros. And then they've stepped up their interest and they've gone in and they've tried to approach the agent, the camp, in order to ensure that if Florentino Perez does win the presidential elections, Real Madrid will be his first choice. Because I'm sure that there are going to be many teams, many clubs that will be all over this deal. The fact that it's under 25 million euros for one of the best right backs in the world. Like, he's not the best. He's not the top 3. He might not even be the top 5. But the right back market right now is not great. Trent is at Real Madrid now. Timber is not leaving Arsenal. Kunde is not leaving Barcelona. Hakimi, I don't think is leaving PSG. Liverpool will be looking for a new right back. Reece James is staying at Chelsea. Serie A, there's really only Dumfries. Bundesliga, Bayern Munich have Lima and Kimmich who can both play there. The truth is, for any top team like Liverpool who want a new right back, there's not many options apart from Dumfries, really. And the fact that you can get him for less than 25 million euros is a steal. And even if you want to take a punt on him as a signing, a 20 million euro punt is not the end of the world for a top team. So I think Real Madrid are moving in. They are positioning themselves in pole position. So in case Florentino Perez does win, which looks very likely, but if he does win, they'll be saying, okay, we've got the election sorted now. You already know we wanted you for the past couple of weeks. Now we're going to pay the release clause to Inter for less than 25 million euros. And you'll agree with us because you already agreed that, you want Real Madrid, right? So we'll just get the contract done and boom, done. So Real Madrid are smart in terms of positioning themselves in pole position with the player. Because as things stand, no other club have contacted his camp, or at least it hasn't been reported mainstream. And I think Denzel Dumfries will be looking at Real Madrid and thinking, yeah, I would fancy going there. And unless another club does come in before next week, Real Madrid might well be one of the only clubs that actually hold talks with his camp. So, want to keep an eye out. Really interesting. Now, to end on, just a summary on what we talked about. So, as you can see here, breaking, Konate and Dumfries are heavily linked to Real Madrid. Things are moving. So, what is the summary? Konate has agreed a 4-year deal with Real Madrid. His salary will be in the sort of second tier, so not the highest paid, but not the lowest paid either. He'll be in the second tier, and his deal will basically be done as soon as Florentino Perez wins the election, and he will join Jose Mourinho, who has already approved of his signing anyways. The two of them will be the two new signings, the first two new signings basically of the summer. In terms of Denzel Dumfries, his release clause is under 25 million euros, and Real Madrid are positioning themselves in a position where they will be pole, they will be favourites, because they have already approached the players' camp, and the moment that Florentino Perez does win the election, Real Madrid will just pay the release clause, which is quite affordable, and they will start talk to the players. And I assume that the player would be more than happy to join Real Madrid, and I don't think the contract situation will be a huge issue. I think his demands will be reasonable, and I think Real Madrid will pay it. So these are two signings that could be done by next week after the elections. Now, we are obviously, like I said, we are waiting for Florentino Perez to win for this to happen, and I think the chances are good. So just relax. Just sit back, relax, enjoy your week, do what you gotta do this week, and I think this Sunday will be a huge watch. I think the whole world will be watching, really, because it's the first time in 20 years, isn't it, that someone has actually challenged Florentino Perez. So, yeah. But that'll be it for today. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Hit the notification, subscribe to the channel on already. I don't think I'll be doing any more content for this week because I want to see what happens in the presidential election. But in case there are any more here we go soon, or concrete moves that have been reported that are really, really close on the brink, I will be doing a video. But yeah, until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.